and gentlemen, the moment that we have been waiting for this year, I know a number of you have been asking me, the podcast, it's a holiday route. No, I'm back. You know how to change how change you di change a learn art change so unnecessary lady punk has a voto kayana or rhythm le flow listen we are just trying to align things so that we can be able to give you what you deserve kera on a better content, the things that you need to know. So I've been spending most of my holiday keeping quiet and try to listen to what is not being said, because that's where you really get the real feeling, the real stories about our people and the real anxieties that our people are going through. So I decided when we start the year, I'll bring a very senior citizen to come and chill with us and educate us on serious matters. In the studio today, January 2025, a moment I thought would never happen. This honorable gentleman, I've been asking him to come to have an interview with him, even when I was still at Gazette. He was a hard man to find, very busy. Mr. Tymon Katlholo, he's a seasoned law enforcement official who is the founding director of the Directorate of Corruption and Economic Crimes, which is the DCEC. So today I'm joined by Mr. Katlholo in the studio, and we are about to learn a lot about Botswana's landscape in terms of governance and public accounting. Katlholo, welcome to the Punchline podcast. How are you, sir?
Thank you, Resret. I'm good. And yourself?
I'm doing fine. Actually, I'm happy. Some people say that I look more happier when I'm in the studio here with a guest.
Why?
I don't know. Maybe it's because I'm doing what I'm passionate about.
Okay.
And you know, sometimes sitting at the cockpit of history as it unfolds is quite an amazing thing. But what is also special these days is that we sit with our audiences at the same time as we follow history as it unfolds.
Okay. No, I also feel great for inviting me.
Yes.
So that I can share whatever experience that I have. If it can be helpful, to the nation.
Yes.
I think that would be good.
Yes. Katlholo, I like going into my conversations by getting a background check. You know, check out what I mean. Pulse, are you match fit for the conversation we are about to go? Did I call the right man here, basically? Trying to understand your history, your long history. I know you joined the civil service sometime in 1972, where you went to Botswana Police and then subsequently the CID, and then later on you founded the DCEC under President Sekitumile Masira's administration. I would like you to take me through this journey, right, where all these amazing things that you have done really began.
Yeah. Thank you very much, Resres. I think I can describe myself as a crime buster.
Yeah.
Because throughout my life, I've been an investigator.
Okay.
Like you indicated, I joined the public service, the Botswana Police, then in 1972. Served 2 years in uniform. Then I was enlisted into the Criminal Investigation Department.
Yeah.
So throughout my life, I was an investigator. I can't think of any crime.
Yes.
Starting from rape, murder, fraud, corruption, extortion, even including cross-border crime.
Crime, yes.
Where we had situations with Namibia on the Sidudu thing.
Okay.
That I haven't investigated. So that has been my life. So, and even after I retired in 2008, I had a short break because 2010, I started my own outfit.
Yes.
Yeah, fraud, corruption, fraud investigation.
Taidu.
Taidu.
Yes.
Yeah.
So then you were a private investigator for a meanwhile there.
Yes.
Okay. In 1972, that was when you joined. You were stationed in Molepolole, right? But I'll be more interested in your time at the DCEC. Before we talk about its founding and the process towards its founding, I'm curious to learn something. For example, last year Botswana was listed number 59, was ranked 59th on the corruption index by Transparency International, which means basically we had dropped in terms of the scales. I'm quite interested in seeing how by the end of 2025, with all these changes,
Yes.
where will we be? You know. So with that being said, I want to understand this simple word that we throw around every day, corruption. I want to understand, in essence, how you relate with it, how you interpret it on a daily basis.
Okay. Corruption, in other words, let's look at what defines corruption. Of course, you are not going to find an omnibus definition of corruption. When you define corruption, you are going to find that you are actually defining acts of corruption. And I have a list of those.
Okay.
And then from there you can see how corruption manifests itself. And then how corruption affects good governance, because you cannot divorce good governance from corruption. You have good governance to manage corruption. And also you fight corruption to promote good governance. Because corruption undermines good governance.
Good governance, yes.
So that is why some kind of intertwine.
Yes.
Right. So, in simple words, corruption is a moral decay. You can put it that way. But when it comes to good governance, corruption is an abuse of power for personal gain. Corruption is a disregard for values and principles. You know, good governance come up with a set of standards that must achieve or facilitate good governance. So corruption, and when you undermine those sets of standards, then you are engaged in an act of corruption. Because the way government or the governance structure runs, you have about 4-5 boxes. You have the standards, right? And then you have the decision-making structures.
Yeah.
And then over and above that, you have the monitoring and accountability structure. Then you have the service delivery structure. And then you have what you call something to do with the promotion of the public service.
Yes.
Because all these things, those standards that you have set, the decisions that you take,
yes,
and the monitoring that you have there, and even the delivery service now, all these are meant to promote good governance.
Yes.
And this is how it happens. When you take a decision, that decision must conform to the standards. One.
Yes.
And then there are people who are watching,
Yes.
or there are structures that are watching, whether that decision,
Oversight.
the oversight, that decision conforms with the standards that is being taken by the authorities that are supposed to take that decision.
Yes.
And then here, that is where now the DCEC comes in. That is where the media comes in.
Yes.
That is where, again, Parliament, to a certain extent, comes in, even though, again, Parliament can fall within that structure, the decision making, because they make laws on our behalf.
Yes.
Right. So, and then when it comes to delivery, now Canada, that is the public service. Decisions are taken there for delivery of projects.
Yes.
Right? So, that delivery must conform to the standards. Those standards. That is where you have both PPADB Act. That is where you have both Finance and Public Finance Management Act. That is where you have the general orders. You have the Constitution. Those are the standards. So, after the end, this delivery is done.
Yes.
Then it serves who? It serves the private sector.
Yes.
Now to promote the economy, right? So if all this, the promotion of the economy is done based on these things that I've just explained, then you have a credible economy. I get it.
Based on good governance, because
based on good
protected
governance,
the process. Yes.
So in there. So that is where what the corruption is an abuse of office, because if you fail to conform to those standards, or if you sideline the standards, if you sideline the processes that defines your values and your standards, then that is where corruption comes in. I don't know.
So if I simplify it, when I'm hanging out with my peers and say, where does corruption begin? And we'll be debating and debating and debating. And someone once says something very interesting. Corruption begins right to Kopako.
Yes, precisely. Because the standards, you should
Oscar, that's the standard. So chitty is corruption. Because half of the time, I'm trying to simplify it, because half of the time we think that corruption is only white collar crimes by a guy in a high office sitting there and doing that. We don't think that when we flout the process, who are actually committing corruption.
Usually committing corruption, because again, you can say corruption is disregard for the public interest.
Yes.
What does the public interest say?
Yeah.
The public interest say, okay, you go to a football match and you expect what? A fair play. I guess.
Yes.
Yeah?
Yes.
So if somebody bends the rules, then they are corrupt.
That's when I got the wrong call. Take me here. What was your first successful corruption case?
Yeah, maybe I should take you a little back.
I don't even know whether successful is the right word, but that you look at and say, okay, this one is notable.
Okay, when you talk about successful, I think there will be many cases that I can talk about, but maybe I think we should start where it actually started and how it all started to have the DCEC.
Okay.
So it started with the BAT scandal.
Yes.
Where, yes, we had that accident. The CEO was killed in a road accident. So
that was in the 90s,
91.
Yes. Yeah, 91.
So when the police attended the scene from the glove compartment of the car, they found 8,000 bula cash. And this accident had actually taken place around midnight. So fortunately enough, one of the very first person to witness this accident was the Deputy Commissioner of Police, who is no more alive. May his who is not alive now. So the matter is a traffic offense, It started as a traffic offense.
Yes.
But then, of course, the following morning, stories started to fly around and all that.
Yes.
No, this person must have been killed and what have you. Then, at that time, I was head of the criminal investigation department.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
And the commissioner of police thought I should look into the matter. Right? So I went there with my team.
Who was the driver? The driver?
No, the driver was the CEO himself.
Yes.
The driver of the car, he was alone.
Yes. No, I just wanted appreciation. Yes.
Yeah, he was alone. So we seized that money and started to investigate, applied all the theories that we can apply to determine if the matter, if there was foul play or not.
Yes.
And of course, our conclusion then was that no, this was just a pure road accident.
Yeah.
Nothing suspicious in terms of our findings, right? So it ended up being a road traffic accident.
Yes.
But then, that 8,000 pula, naturally to a detective, would
red flags.
red flags.
And in 1991, 8,000 pula was a lot.
Was a lot of money because the questions that people started to ask, were involved in the investigation. CEO of a corporation like BHC carrying 8,000 pula cash in the middle of the night. Is this a reasonable scenario, a reasonable thing that you can think it is normal? So that started to kick an avalanche of questions. And again, coincidentally, that is when there was a construction boom. Yeah, this area where we are now, Agar,
Yes.
by BHC.
Yes, Havaron, yes.
And besides that, of course, we had been receiving some intelligence that, okay, corruption, So, that, because this was Saturday, it was Friday night, Saturday morning. So Saturday, we decided, okay, we're going to barricade the
Accident scene.
no, the
offices.
The BHC headquarters.
Yes, yes.
Yeah, nobody goes in there until Monday, when we've sorted ourselves out, because we had our own suspicions.
Okay.
Okay, then Monday, we did what was required of us. Invited the Auditor General. Yeah, is it the Auditor General or Accountant General? One of the two. To go into the CEO's office.
Yes.
So as we're searching through the office, we could pick up some little coins, 25 tebe, 50 tebe, almost littered all over in the CEO's office.
Yes.
Then I said, something is wrong. What does this mean? Does this mean that this guy is so affluent that he doesn't care about petty cash?
Yeah. And that's a lot of money. 99, that's a lot of money there. Yes.
And then, of course, I think we counted up to 112 pula of those coins. Right. And the Auditor General or Accountant General, we look for the safe keys, we open the safe, and then what did we find? 218,000 in cash in the safe. So these were 20 pillars. That is before we had the 50 pillars.
Jesus.
And then Now, we have to link or try to establish link between the 8,000 and the 218,000. And we successfully managed to do that.
Yeah.
Because of the series of the notes.
Oh, okay.
So the only reasonable conclusion you could come to, okay, that is part of this money.
Because the serial number is continuous. Yes.
So the investigation kicked off. We're searching through the diaries, through the notebooks. And in one of the diaries, we came across an entry which had listed some notes again. And the CEO had indicated that, look, I've returned this money to this Chinese company because I don't receive this kind of presents. But what actually happened is that this Chinese guy was not smart enough. He followed the CEO to his house. And when he got there, the wife was in the sitting room, and the husband was somewhere in the room, in the house. So, and he could not meet these guys. But then the guy said, no, we have brought your husband this present. So it was in a brown envelope. The famous brown envelope.
Brown envelope. Yes.
So the wife opens, says, so this is the kind of presents that my husband receives. No. And she waits for the husband to come. They say, where is your present? Where does it come from? No, there were some Chinese guys here, but they didn't want to wait for you to come. So he looked at the inside the envelope. There was money, cash. Which turned out to be 20,000 as we established through the investigations.
Yes.
Then, of course, the wife was not amused. He said, no, take back this money, return it. So I think that is what prompted the CEO to take note of the serial numbers of those notes.
Yes.
The serial numbers of those notes.
Okay. Yeah.
And returned the money. Called the Chinese guy to take the money. He came and took the money. So this had happened 2 years before the accident, according to the entry.
Yes.
And then we picked up this, and then we said, gentlemen, this is a breakthrough. This is a major breakthrough. So I instructed my team, get the search warrant, go and search this company. But you target the petty cash register.
Yes.
Right? Because you might find a corresponding entry. Yeah, they said 20,000.
Yes.
And also go for the safe. And they did that.
Yes.
As fate would have it, we found 8,000 of this this 20,000 in the safe. So the serial numbers were there and whatever. This is what happened.
Yes. Yes.
And of course, we started to investigate. We ended up with numerous prosecutions, including prosecuting even the one of the assistant ministers for receiving a bribe of 500,000.
Yes. And heads rolled at the time.
And then heads rolled at the time. Heads rolled at the time.
People lost their jobs.
People lost their jobs. People were prosecuted. Some board members lost their positions in the boards. So, because of this, I would say there was political will to combat corruption. Because nobody said to us, CID,
Yes.
Or no. You cannot touch that one. You can do this. You can't do this and that and that. We're free to investigate the way we wanted to investigate, and ended up with those prosecutions and what have you.
Yes.
And even when the time came to charge the assistant minister, it was a matter of informing the president.
Yes.
As a matter of courtesy.
Yes.
Tomorrow we are going to charge your appointee.
Yes.
So he did not say, no, you can't charge my appointee or something like that, or he's the most important member of my party or member of my cabinet or what have you. So he said, okay, and then he did what he thought was right. Dropped the minister. We went to court. He fought his case until even went to the Court of Appeal or High Court or something like that. So that's it. So here, the point I'm trying to bring in here is the issue of political will in the fight corruption. It is very, very important.
That's where it really begins, really, if we are talking about this process.
That is where it really begins.
Is that where now President Masire found it fit to say, now let's establish an institution that focuses primarily on investigating corruption,
yes,
which is the DCEC. How did we transition to that? What was the conversation?
Because he said, okay, if these are indications that corruption is creeping in our society, then I think we need to nip it in the bud. Yes, we may be content about what the police have done hitherto.
Yes.
But I think we need to take a step further to make sure that we come up with some administrative measures now to deal with the causes of corruption.
Yes.
Which arise from what? Disregard to principles, disregard to public interest, disregard to the corporate values as you'd expect them.
Yes.
You see,
and
so
greed,
and greed, to deal with greed also. So I think that is how now this idea of coming up with DCEC came about. And then I said, okay, in addition to that, we are not going to disturb the process, investigation in our bodies, but in addition to help in that process, let us establish an institution that will be dedicated towards combating corruption. And more so that it turned out that during the investigation, it turned out that we needed enabling legislation. We didn't have an enabling legislation that time. We only had 2 sections in the penal code that defined corruption, and that was not enough. So you needed to come up with something that would give powers to the police, because during that time, then the police would not even have the power to access bank accounts, without going through the court process. Then which then was some kind of delaying the investigation process, and it was even some kind of susceptible to other interferences that you can think of.
Yes.
So that by the time you got there, I mean, all the evidence would have been lost.
Could have been gone, and it's a gridlock. Yes.
So that is when now the new legislation came into place, which was dedicated to combating corruption, and gave DCEC officers those powers to access bank accounts without going through the court process. In other words, giving DCEC officers quasi court powers to access bank accounts.
Bank accounts and suspects' information and premises.
Yeah.
That's quite interesting. So yeah, it continues. Now it's years later. We have a full-fledged DCEC, which is
And then and your question was what was your most interesting or successful case?
Yes.
So it so happened that one of our very first cases, we arrested a taxi driver.
Okay.
This taxi driver was involved in a robbery case, a bank robbery case. So he went to trial. I mean, that was a police case.
Yes.
And incidentally, the robbery took place when I was still the head of CID.
Yes.
So a Standard Chartered Bank was robbed, I think, 1 million at gunpoint.
Damn.
So the trial, Broadhurst.
In Broadhurst. Yes.
So the trial was continuing. And then after all the evidence was given and the state had closed its case, the taxi driver approaches who? The court interpreter to steal the trial file.
Yeah.
So I got to after the state had closed its case, all the evidence now is gone. Get out into the file.
Yes.
Now they decided to steal the file. And the court clerk was credible enough to report the matter to the magistrate, and the magistrate reported the matter to us. So we did what was necessary. I wouldn't tell you. That's a tactical.
Should I assume it was violent?
No, it wasn't. No, it wasn't. Far from being violent.
Okay.
Yeah, just a tactical approach.
Okay.
Some tactics that we applied.
Oh, okay. The covert ones.
The covert ones, which you call a sting up.
Yes. Yes.
So we mounted a sting up, and then this guy was arrested. So we went to court. He had no way out. He pleaded guilty. He was convicted. Damn. Now listen to the public opinion. They can only arrest small fish but taxi driver.
Yes.
So what this DCEC is a toothless dog. But then I'm sitting there myself and then say, hey, but do these people understand the magnitude of this problem? Here you have somebody, he has committed a serious offense like bank robbery. They have been tried, and then they want to steal the file, actually interfering with the democratic process and even the rule of law. Right? I mean, we are able to walk around here because we are protected by the rule of law.
Yes.
So once you compromise that, you have had everything. You have killed everything.
Exactly.
So, but then I said, but you see, that's public opinion. I think we have to accept it. We go on explain. Yeah. So that was the first case. Of course, the second case that we had was that that involved the Baditsela Tymon.
Baditsela, China Jiangsu.
Yeah.
When?
No, the director of roads.
Oh, DRT. Yes.
The director of roads. This was a bribery. This road, yeah.
Okay.
It was being upgraded.
Yes.
So there was some bribe that was exchanged.
How much was it?
The bribe was 100,000. And you see, what is interesting in investigation is that investigation can be both coincidental or accidental. The detection can be either accidental or coincidental. So what happened in this particular case, two an uncle and then nephew. They were fighting over the shares of a company, and then they went to the High Court. So they went to the High Court.
Reminds me of the former president's siblings.
They went to the High Court.
Yes.
So the High Court, the nephew said, no, now why this man is pushing me like this? It is because I think I've had enough of paying bribes. So, we just pay the 100,000 pula bribe in this particular project.
It's wastage.
And then, of course, the Attorney General referred that civil case to us. Now reporting what? It should be expected. I mean,
yes. Corruption.
For Lona DCEC, to bribery. So, so I mean, we can go on and on and on and on.
That's quite interesting. With this establishment, which I want to fast forward first, and then we'll go back right to the start. Fast forward meaning that we are sitting here now. Just a couple of months back, which is last year, you left the DCEC. You are caught up in a serious legal tussle with the establishment, let me just say with government, surrounding a lot of things that were happening in your organization and contractual issues emanating from the butterfly case. I don't know, maybe take me through the status quo of your tussle with government, and then maybe you will build me up all the way to the butterfly case, because you came in and found it there.
Okay. Maybe let me start with the butterfly case.
Okay, however you think flows.
Actually,
yes.
Like I said, I retired 2009. No, 2008. 2009.
No, 2009, yes.
Yes, I retired 2009.
Yes.
Then I went out. I was just like any other person. So, come 2020, August, I'm at my house. I received a call from the PSP to say that, hey, would like to meet you.
Which PSP was it?
It was Remahosi, Elias.
Elias, okay.
Would like to meet you. Where are you? So I'm a director. He comes. Okay. I think the nearest place we can meet is Avani. So we meet. And then he's holding this envelope. It's a letter. He says, hey, Era, Utila should give you this letter. This comes from the president. It's non-negotiable. The president says he wants a DCEC that to be sustainable for the next 50 years, counting on your previous experience at the DCEC, the achievements it made, the reputation it gained, and all that. Can I have to consult? I can't tell you now or whether I'm accepting or I'm not accepting.
Not.
Then
you have your own government.
I have my own government. Maisu, Minister of Home Affairs. This is the story. I told you I was being called, and this is what I'm coming up with.
Okay.
Yeah, they should be here. Call the cabinet now.
Yes.
We've been hustling. It is not that we're doing badly. We're content with what I was doing, my small outfit.
Yes.
But here is an offer from the head of state, from government. So what do we do with it? And then they pondered over it, and then they said, Papa, if it is a national call, why should you decline it? I said, but what am I doing with my spouse?
Yes, yes.
So fortunately enough, I had my cousin I was working with. I invited him to the meeting. We sat around, and they said, no, I think you should take the offer. I and your son will remain with the business.
The business, yes.
So I had to resign as one of the directors from the company. Even now, I haven't yet resumed my directorship at the company. So, so I had to resign. And then a day after, I called the PSP, said, I think I'll give it a trial. I said, okay, but tomorrow you should be in the office.
Hey, Ghana is busy. That was a run time, the butterfly case. Mud is swinging left, right, and center.
Right. So, that is how it happened. And I get there, and then I find this case. And already, Ghana, this was the 25th or 26th of August that I received the letter. And only to find that a week before, there was a meeting. You remember the tape that was leaked out?
Leaked out, yes.
There was a meeting between DCEC, DIS, and the DPP,
yes,
where they were talking about this case.
Yes.
So naturally, because DCEC was implicated, now I've taken the reins now. So what do? Now I'm becoming accountable. I get.
Yes.
I'm inheriting this thing that I don't know what it is.
Yes.
So the very first thing to do was to acquaint myself with the facts of this case, right? How it started, what was involved, and then started to apply all the theories, fraud and what have you, what is possible, analyze what it was presented before me as evidence and what have you. And then I came to the conclusion that, but we seem to have rushed to the court prematurely.
Yeah.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Because you're talking of 100 billion, and there is no way that you can investigate 100 billion within 3 weeks, and you are done and you have all the evidence. When the evidence, the case transcends beyond borders and all that, you see. I mean, that is impossible. Yeah. And so I did the analysis, and then, of course, prepared the report, and then, which I submitted to my principal. My principal said, the president, Mr. President, now this is what I see. Of course, I can't divulge the contents and what have you, but this is what I see. That is how it all started. But it looks like some people were not happy with this advice that I gave to the president. Although the president did not come back to me to say, yes, I've seen your report and this is what I'm doing. I mean, I was just simply advising. So it was up to him what he does or what he did with the report. But then that is when I started to see some vibes. And it all started by one morning. There's this young sergeant, Arotoko Serious Crime Squad. He says he's carrying a demand warrant under national security, right? A
demand warrant.
A demand warrant.
Okay.
Under national security. We want all the files, the butterfly and blah, 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 blah.
To be confiscated then.
To be confiscated then. The warrant under the National Security Act must be signed by the DPP, right?
Yes.
And under the National Security Act, it must actually be motivated by the Commissioner of Police. So I have this young sergeant coming to my office carrying this. Then naturally I picked up a phone. Hey, Commissioner, what do you know about this? I mean, what are we saying here? And the Commissioner was not aware of that. No. This man, I've seconded him to the DIS, so I don't know. I know nothing about it. Then I said, man, go and tell the director DIS to come to me so that we can discuss this issue.
Yeah.
Because I can see some problems here.
Yeah.
So whether I did that or not, I don't know. So that one just died a natural death.
So just a few weeks after you arrived. Yeah.
No, I think it was a year later.
Oh, a year later.
Yeah,
when
it was
the
a year later.
investigation was still ongoing.
Yeah.
Okay.
So what happens? I received, this was now December 2021.
Yes.
Because all this I'm saying is actually in the court case.
Yes.
It is what actually formed the basis of the court case. Yeah. Or led to the litigation. DIS, they want to interview 5 of my officers. I should release them immediately. And yes, actually, it was saying, I mean, even in the court record, you'll see it. Say you release those officers as soon as you receive this letter.
Jesus. So that they get secondment at the DIS?
No, they want to be interviewed. They want them interviewed. They want them for interview.
Okay.
So you release them as soon as you receive this letter, and also give them whatever information we might need. But the information that they need is not even spelled out or what information they would need. Then I call the then acting director. Hey, Mana, I've just received this letter, but do you mind if these officers would come to your office, say, tomorrow? At least 2 of them. So he said, okay, no, it doesn't, it is okay. Then the following day, I released these 2 officers. They went to the DIS 2 o'clock in the morning, and this was on the 16th of December. Now, 2 o'clock in the morning, that is on the 17th. Yeah?
Yes.
They called me to say, no, we've just been released. Okay. And naturally, after the release, they came back to the office. And that was the first time I learned what the DIS were asking for. And in my view, that did not go to that length. It was something that the director would just call me, hey, my friend, do you have this information or you don't? Or my friend, do you remember about this conversation that we had or I had with I had this kind of conversation with your predecessor or what have you. So we're investigating a matter, this particular matter, so how do you assist? I mean, that would have solved the problem.
Yeah.
We didn't need to go to those lengths. Right?
Yeah.
So that is when I learned about what they were looking for, what they said they were looking for. They were looking for a file, investigation file, which was reported to the DCEC by them in 2019, December, where it was resolved for these firearms, Zahabo as a Kosi. The DCEC should investigate to determine if there was an element of abuse of office in the acquisition and registration of these firearms. That is when I learned for the first time that is what they were looking for. So, like I said earlier, this is the kind of information that if the director came to me, we sit down and then I say, okay, bring that file. Hey, who is investigating that file? Hey, bring it. And then we sit down, we look at this, and then he said, okay, me Ronarli DCEC. Now, this is our position. You get my point?
Yes.
But then we didn't need, to go to those lens of dramatizing the whole thing and that.
Yes.
So, okay. Then what happens? Again, now they have informed me. Now I'm informed for what they need. I said, hey, this case was allocated to the two officers that were invited for interview.
Yeah.
Mind you, they were not, the two officers were not allocated that file by me, but by my predecessor.
Yes.
Yeah? Again.
Yes.
So now I inherited it.
Yes.
So I said, okay, go and bring that file. So they bring the file, I looked at it. I said, okay, they had made their comments, actually recommending the closure, this file, which my predecessor had agreed, had accepted or no. I think we have exhausted all the elements that would constitute abuse of office. So we can't find any crime here. Okay, no, I think I agree with the findings. Put it back to the archives.
Okay.
Right?
Interesting.
Now, comes...
so if it was closed and done, why were they looking for it?
You mean the DIS?
Yes, no.
I don't know. I mean...
Oh, you never...
Even because Ghana, up to this day, they have not even interviewed me to tell me what they were, find out what they were looking for in that file.
Okay.
And again, it was a DCEC office, closed, finished, right?
Okay.
So all that we needed to do was to do what? Inform them that we can't find any evidence to substantiate whatever charges we're contemplating.
Okay.
So, okay, all right. And then this is December. Now we come in, we are fast forwarding this, coming to April. April, something very funny happens.
Yes.
There is a message in the Museveni Facebook
page, the account, yes.
Account. When PSP and DIS, you must be very careful, because now my company is brought into the picture. I don't know why. Because Tidal is coming for you.
What?
Tidal is coming for you. Now, my company's name.
Yes, Tidal, yes.
Yeah, now is attributed to me.
Yes.
Now, Tidal is coming to you. I think this Facebook page was on the 14th of April.
Yes.
Right? Then on the 18th of April, that is when I went to South Africa and then Rwanda.
Yes.
When I was in Rwanda, one of the journalists calls me I think he was from the Gazette. He says, Mr. Katlholo, where are you? No, I'm in Rwanda.
Yes, I remember that. Yeah.
But do you think when you come back, you'll still be the director, the director general of the DCEC?
Yeah.
And I said, I don't know, because nobody has told me that. Nobody has told me why I should not be the director of the DCEC.
Yes.
So, and then I think the story came up in the Gazette. Katlholo, whether you be director or what have you.
Yes, I mean, we presided over that story. A lot was happening. I see you are fast forwarding, but I'm actually interested in the meat and the context of that, because these form part and parcel of your departure at the DCEC. And then there was an instance where the DCEC was barricaded.
No, I'm coming to that.
Yes, please.
Kura, I'm taking you through a chronological order of events.
Yes.
Then Kiko Rwanda, and I'm just about to make a presentation, right? Botswana's position in the fight against corruption. So my staff officer comes running to me, hey, Bon, here we have a story in the Facebook. Had the DCEC office has been barricaded.
Yeah.
And then there was a statement that was made after that barricadation. Barricaded on account of investigating a threat to national security. Then I'm sitting here and I'm wondering, but who is a threat to national security? Myself, my office, my officers, who? Hey, or some staff members at the DCEC.
Yeah.
Then I did my presentation, and after that, yes, of course, disturbed a little bit.
Yes.
And then I called my minister. Minister, Ghana, this is what I see. What is happening? My minister said, no, I know nothing, but I'll check. So unfortunately, he's still checking even now.
Strange.
And then I decided, I think this is a situation of a tussle between mandates of two organizations.
Yes.
Who's supposed to do what? Then I said, I called the Attorney General. Attorney General, Ghana, this is what I hear. I wonder, and then I sent him the message. So can you advise? Because I can foresee a situation where the rule of law is being trampled upon. The rule of law, or even the Constitution, is being trampled upon. And then he says, okay, I'll come back to you. And then he comes back. He calls after, I think, 5 hours, he calls me. And then says, Ra, I've checked with DPP. Nobody has briefed me. I don't know what is happening. But I'm briefing you now. I'm drawing it to your attention. Something very serious is happening. So can you intervene? No. I don't think I can. There's anything I can do. Okay. Then I decided to put it in writing. AG, following our conversation, this is actually what happened. Now I'm asking for two things. You intervene, or you allow me to engage some private lawyers to defend the integrity and sanctity of the organization. Because in as far as I'm concerned, this is an act of an unlawful act being perpetuated against the administration that I'm running. Okay. He writes back to say that no, I don't think I can do anything. And then I said, okay. Then I sat down and then decided to initiate some court papers whilst in Rwanda. I engaged the Borrelli Buru, drafted some instructions, and then gave them the background. Came up with an affidavit and all that. Sent it to them, so we're sending it back and forth, until the last but one day, when we had finalized everything, and then we decided we were going to file. So we filed the day before. We filed the day before I arrived here, interdicting the DIS against all these things.
Yeah.
Right. So, of course, we are given an interim interdict, which would naturally run for 30 days. And then once that 30 days matures, then you must come up with some more substantive
to show cause why
to show cause why
they shouldn't proceed with their movement. Yes.
So we did that, deposed to some affidavits, and of course the court ruled in my favor at the High Court to say that the way the DIS conducted themselves, it was unlawful. It was outside their mandate. It was outside their mandate. Yes. And then, that did not end there. After this ruling, Ghana, now, the state, I get now representing DIS, appealed against that decision, High Court. So we went to the Court of Appeal, and the Court of Appeal did not mince its words. In fact, if we had to look at one of the comments, it's more judgment in it. I think it is 72. Yes. Where they made it categorically clear. The way DIS acted, they disrespected the laws that constituted the DCEC. They even disrespected Parliament itself, which created those laws. Because there was nothing in their own act that empowered them to act in the manner that they did. Because they said they were investigating national security in terms of their act. But when you look at their own act, the offenses created under that statute are only limited to the DIS itself, right?
Yes.
They don't go outside their remit. It is like their officers and all that. And then again, when you look at the National Security Act itself, it doesn't give them the mandate to investigate national security. It is the prerogative, the competent authority is the Botswana Police and the BDF.
When they can compile intelligence.
When they can compile intelligence and push it to those institutions. So, under which law were they acting? Dololo. And then, what was interesting is that at the Court of Appeal, they were asked, what were you investigating? No, threat to national security. Threat to national security. Which law were you applying? The Security and Intelligence Act. Which provision of the law were you pursuing that you relate to Mr. Katlholo's conduct? Dololo. No, we wanted to find out the investigation relating to the arms, the firearms that were seized from Kosi was properly investigated. I get now we're going back to that story.
Oh, okay.
So is that the reason why you barricaded the office? So what superintendent's authority do you have over DCEC? I mean, in those, how long DCEC was given the case to investigate, this particular case, to investigate. What superintendent's authority do you have over DCEC to find out whether they were properly investigating the case or were not properly investigating?
Because you are not their oversight.
Because you are not their oversight. Dololo.
So then does it tie back with the fact that before you came, the guns case has been closed?
It ties, yes, yes. The guns case was closed. So, and the story there, okay, but why did you barricade the office? No, we suspected that he was hiding this file in his office and the other file in his office. Okay, when do you determine when he's hiding a file in his office or he's keeping it safely? So what determines that? He's the overall custodian of the files at DCEC. So if he decides to keep the file in his office, he can keep that file in his office. For whatever reasons that he find necessary or deem necessary to do that. But when do you determine that file is hidden to the extent that you would even close the office? And what was even more interesting, after I came back, so because our pleadings were that, okay, I'm hiding some files. Let's do this. Let us engage the registrar of the High Court, right?
Yes.
And in fact, an order was made to that effect by the High Court. Okay. Lona, DIS, if at all, that's what we are saying is correct. So you are going to do things. Obtain a warrant, because they acted without the warrant. Obtain a warrant, and then you go back to the DCEC office with the director to search for the file that you are looking for.
And then you bring it here.
And then those files will be placed in the hands of the registrar of the High Court, so that whoever or whenever you need that information, or whoever needs that information, they apply to the register.
To the register. Now they are safe and hidden at the same time.
So we pushed them to that level. And I said, okay, I was ready. Come, open the office. And then we are going to take an inventory of everything that is in the office. In the first place, to determine, if at all, the file you say I'm hiding, I'm actually hiding it in my office, or it is in my office, because it was not in my office anyway. And then I said, in my pleadings, I have a suspicion. And my strongest suspicion is there are certain investigations that I'm undertaking that involve high-ranking DIS officers and some senior officers at the Office of the President. So that is actually what we are looking for. Not this one is just used as a scapegoat, I mean, as a ploy, I mean, to access the DCEC office. But the whole idea, it is actually captured even in the judgment. The whole idea, you are looking for this. Then they refused. And they were in contempt. The office. I get. The office and look for this, obtain a warrant. Then they don't want to do that. And also they don't want to open the office in my presence. And I'm asking a question of but why were you closing this office? You said you were securing evidence in the office because I was away. Now I'm here. Now you don't want to open the office. Does that make sense? So if you're going to open this office in my absence and you find something incriminating, how do you connect it with me? Because I can still turn around and say, no, that you planted it. I get it. Eh? So it was that drama.
Yes, yes.
And then the next thing, I get what? A suspended letter. You are suspended for misconduct.
Who suspended you?
The Prime Secretary to the President.
Yes, yes.
You are suspended for misconduct.
Yes, yes.
And I'm sitting here. Misconduct. And that misconduct is not even misspelled. Hardly. The acting president has received a preliminary report. Or you may have conducted yourself in a manner that is incompatible with the public service. What is my offense there? I may have conducted myself in a manner that is incompatible with the behavior of a public officer. So what is my offense?
There's no charge.
There is no charge. There is no description of the offense that I've committed.
Yes.
But I'm suspended. So I'm given this letter by my minister, Kialebala Moren. He says, now do you okay, that's it.
The whole minister.
Yeah. That's it. Get out. These are some of the things that now.
So a whole minister wasn't able to defend his institutions.
Precisely. This is now where we come to the whole issue of the political will during that administration. Because here, we are investigating certain personalities within government. They are aware that we are investigating certain personalities within the government. And now they use some
dark tactics.
Some dark tactics
yes.
to frustrate the investigation. One. So, the issue of political will, when you compare it to that time, Yaha Ramasiri does not exist. Moreover, that none of the senior administrators, including the president, the vice president, or the acting president, or the permanent secretary, none of them calls me to say, the Attorney General denies graft.
So then how did you leave then? Is the suspension until the contract lapse?
Suspension until the contract lapse, when I think the contract was 3 months towards...
you wrote to them?
Yeah. No, I didn't write to them.
Oh, okay.
They write me to say that the president has decided to terminate your contract ahead. Ahead of its time.
Yes.
Even then, no reasons were given for termination. And technically, I'm still suspended. And I'll tell you what. Ghana, the letter said, we suspend you pending investigations. I get it.
Yes.
Now, the investigation is still continuing. So the only time you revoke that suspension is either when you charge me disciplinarily or you write me to say that now we have completed our investigation, we have found nothing.
Yes.
But otherwise, I remain suspended, technically. But of course,
Yes.
that is a matter for another day. Eh.
So interestingly, this brings about the question of the independence of institutions. Is the DCEC really independent to DPSM?
Operationally,
Yes.
there is a provision, I think is section, in the Corruption and Economic Crime Act that says when it comes to investigation, nobody directs the director what to investigate, when to investigate, or how to investigate. That is his prerogative. Kuri, you have given some kind of a quasi judge status,
Yes.
right? Where a judge will determine the case in the manner
Yes.
he sees it. The Director General will determine
Yes.
the case in the way he sees it, whether to investigate or not to investigate it, depending on the circumstances.
Yes.
That is the prerogative of the director.
Yes.
And whoever, actually it is also provided for in the Act, or whoever interferes with that discretionary power of the director, they're actually committing an offense. That is why the High Court, the Court of Appeal, made a pronouncement in the judgment hall. The way these people behaved, they were actually even trying to procure DCEC officers to commit an offense against what? Against the Corruption and Economic Crime Act. Because there is a provision again in the Corruption and Economic Crime Act, which says the information that is within the DCEC is protected. That is where now, journalists, we have some kind of a problem. This information is protected, and it's protected for a very good reason.
Yes. And that's how I got arrested, actually, by DCEC.
It is protected for a very good reason. The reason it's here. The reason it's here. Corruption is unlike any other offense or any other crime. With all these other crimes, that is why I'm a police they will report, yes, somebody was murdered because they have the evidence of murder.
Yes, it's a fact.
The body is there.
Yes.
I get it. But with corruption, somebody comes to you to say that Seretse is corrupt. They're only reporting their own perception. Because there is a thin line, because a corrupt decision and a wrong decision. Until you scratch the surface, that is when you would know whether that decision was corrupt or was corruptly motivated or was a wrong decision. Because it doesn't have a scene of crime. You don't start with the evidence. You start with an allegation, which needs to be checked out. And you also have a duty, as a DCEC officer, to protect the dignity of the person who
the whistleblower. The person you are investigating.
No, the person you are investigating.
Yes.
Yes. Because otherwise you are liable. You just go there and say Seretse is corrupt, and then you cannot produce any evidence that is corrupt. And in fact, there are rules for investigation. Kana hawamukhala investigation the very first time. That's a gut feeling.
Yes.
The information that you have there, you just have a gut feeling of what has happened. So in majority of cases, that is what happens in corruption cases. You have a gut feeling, right? And then you ask one or two people. Now you start to form an impression of what might have happened. But even then, you have not reached a stage where you can relate to the third person, a journalist or whoever, and you have not reached that stage until you go further now to reach a stage, you're in probable cause. Now you have reached a stage of probable cause. At that stage, that is when now we can arrest you, we can detain you, we can do whatever. We can even relate to yes, this man, we are taking him to court because he has paid a bribe. At that time, you have the evidence here bribe, I get it. But you have not yet reached a stage here in establishing a case beyond reasonable doubt. You are at a stage where now you are empowered to implement certain or take certain actions. You can apply for a warrant of arrest, you can apply for a detention warrant, because now you have a probable cause. You have something that you can show. There is a high probability that this person is responsible for this particular crime.
Yes. So speaking of which, when you say that corruption is a special kind of a crime in that sense, when I brought the question, is DCEC independent of DPSM? We work on the issue of security of tenure. Because now when people, it's common cause, and we have seen it everywhere, like what may have happened to you, that when people are investigating serious cases, they get transferred, they get fired, they get suspended and all of that. How do we protect?
Actually, I got carried away in explaining this other aspect. I nearly forgot that particular aspect. You see, that is how the operational independence goes. I can explain the operational independence. But you have the administrative part. Now, where the DCEC is not completely independent, because it is tied to what? To the Public Service Act.
The Public Service Act, yes.
And I think some years back we tried to de-link the DCEC from the public service. For the very reasons that you have just said. You know, I'm in Mau. My secretary sends me some letters. Some officers have been transferred. Even those officers, sorry, even those officers whose positions were devolved to me for appointment. And what was even surprising, those that were being transferred to the DCEC were even posted to certain sections of the DCEC, and I'm not aware.
And then you are stripped and left with no officer.
Then I'm stripped and left with no officer. That is where we had that tussle with the office of the president to say that no, but you cannot do that because I'm an accounting officer. In terms of this act, I am an accounting officer. And in any case, when you do that, you are actually besting accountability on my part, because how can I go and pick a scheme?
Yes.
So if you transfer somebody, how do you know that I've assigned them a particular case? If you transfer somebody into the DCEC, how do you know that they don't have a case that we are investigating against him? So these are the things we are got on. And I think that needs to be addressed as soon as possible. And of course, the other thing is the security of tenure.
Yes.
And this one, I spoke about it some years ago, during my first tenure. I continued to talk about it even when I came back. And I'm still talking about it even now. It is very, very key. Because that is what would protect the discretionary power bestowed upon the director DCEC to investigate freely.
Which just out of curiosity, I haven't researched this, I'll check. Which notable officers have security of tenure? I'm aware of judges, at least.
The DPP.
The DPP?
I'm not too sure about the Attorney General this time, but I know there was a time when the Attorney General had that. Obviously, the Auditor General, yeah, they have that.
The Ombudsman?
And the Ombudsman.
Okay.
Yeah. But if you are to compare the burden of responsibility between the Director General, DCEC, and the Ombudsman,
Yes.
I think the Director General carries more burden
Yes, yes.
than the Ombudsman. If you had to look at their function.
So basically, speaking of these things, some of these things, this gap and this vacuum allows also for politicization of such offices. You take the FIA Director General Office, the DIS Director General Office, the one talking about the DCEC Director General Office. In other countries, you have these positions, dinner security of tenure. No matter how many times politicians change, they pledge allegiance to the Constitution and the rule of law.
And the state.
And the state.
Yeah.
So basically now, because every new king comes in and and brings in his own new shepherds, creates a situation where now some of these offices become politicized. Do you think it is deliberate by architect, or it is something that really needs to be looked at?
Well, I think it is deliberate. Earlier on, I talked about the standards vis-a-vis governance. One. So, I think the public service is very clear. Our public service is apolitical.
Yes.
It's very clear. I don't serve the individual. I serve the office.
Yes.
As a public officer. So, but for some reasons, people have decided to ignore this aspect. Yeah? Again, for their political consideration, which is very wrong. And if we are not careful about it, then I don't think it is going to take us anywhere, because we are bringing in or breeding a situation of mistrust. Right. Director General, DCEC. I'm a professional. I must be treated like a professional. I know what governs my behavior as a professional. Just like I'm going out to investigate a case. I don't investigate a case because no. I investigate a case to establish whether there is evidence to implicate his rights.
So you don't investigate people, you investigate the crime.
You investigate the crime. So, when residents is involved in this crime, it will come naturally, through what the available evidence.
Yeah.
And that is what should happen. Not because, okay, residents, I don't like him, so I must investigate him. That should not be allowed.
Yes.
And again, the institution DCEC, one has to be very, very careful. You don't weaponize it against against the people who are opposing you.
Yes, yes. No, here we are sitting right there. The one who used to complain that certain systems are weaponized against them, they are now holding the power.
And
so what are
if I were to remind you, the DCEC was actually launched on the 19th of September 1994. That is when we started Operation Proper.
Yes.
And we had called a press conference, right? Now to give direction how the organization was going to operate, because there were some skepticisms. Or it is going to be used against dissenting voices, is going to be used against that and that and that. And we made it very clear. From that day, we made it very clear. The consideration is that the DCEC is going to be used to as a weapon against dissenting voice. That one which you'll be setting a very bad precedent, right? And I think that is what motivated me to go to court, right? To say that, I'm being asked now as an instrument, I mean, so this is wrong. It can't happen that way. That is what motivated me to protect the reputation of the organization.
Yes.
And even the court asked, Court of Appeal, or Hail, Luna State, what are you defending here? What are you defending? Mr. Katlholo is trying to, is defending the integrity and the sanctity and the reputation of the DCEC.
A state organ.
A state. Lona, what are you defending? Nobody could answer that question or what they were defending. And the next question was, what is Mr. Katlholo benefiting in all this? Personally, what is he benefiting? And they considered that no, he's benefiting nothing except to protect the reputation of the organization.